Bet you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. It's Free Will and Friday. We're going to leave a lot more time today for questions because the boss is been harping on me about it for a while, so let's do it. And I know it's a day with probably a lot to go through. But there's a couple of things that I want to bring up before we talk about what we found in Georgia this week, which is pretty incredible. But also, I know people want to talk about Arizona, and I'm sure you'll have your questions, and we'll get to that. But unlike everybody else, I'd like the full report to be able to read it before I comment on it. I will say this, though, right off the bat. I told you guys this from the beginning, that essentially Arizona was not... It was like, like an audit is a good word, and I guess maybe people need to start getting their terminology straight. That it was so like, what did Laura and I do, and what did Matt do, and I'm sure there were others who probably did some to some extent as well. If you're calling somebody, you're going to their house, whatever it may be, I guess that essentially is a canvas, right? So I told you guys this from the beginning that in the end, you don't need to talk about. I think Republicans got duped a little bit here, and I Robert and I have been really clear about this. Good old fashioned is good old fashioned, and the machines and all this stuff. I mean, it was so easy for Maricopa to play games with what they would give, what they wouldn't give, and really the machines had nothing to do with it. It really just had. I know a lot of people want to harp on that, but the question was always whether people were verified correctly. And when you pick up the phone and you call so-and-so, on such and such street, and they tell you they did not request that ballot, and they have no idea how their vote got counted. Cyber Ninja did none of that. Let's be honest here. So I don't know really what everyone fully expected other than some accounting issues, which, by the way, from what I can read, there is. So it doesn't really matter if you just kind of like recheck who people vote for and Trump got 70 less votes and Biden got 200 more votes. If you're just going over and counting things. That was never the fundamental issue here. And everything else was really just a distraction. You know? And I mean, I think, again, I'd like to read the whole thing because from what I do have, I mean, what was it? Like 30,000 people from other counties? You know, I mean, that's not okay. You know, people deleted shortly. That's not all right. But what difference does it make if they're just reshuffled and counted again? Not much. Not much. All right. And by the way, it never if you cannot fully audit. I mean, if a report is going to come out and say you can't really fully audit an election, then that is a problem in and of itself. Why not? All right, but again, let's wait until it comes out. All right, the media, big media, corporate media is really trying to get ahead on this. You know, they're trying to get ahead, and I kind of fully expected the results to just kind of shift around a little bit. No different than what 2016 did. You know, after we saw that, you know, maybe a few votes shift here and there. People needed to be called and canvassed and. Here, I mean, many of us did a lot of work for them already, you know. So I don't understand if I don't see individual records addressed in this report, then for me it doesn't address at all what we have been talking about. All right. So with that, but again, I will reserve judgment until I read and obtain the full thing. All right. I'd like to back up a little bit here. All week long, Democrats were kind of getting dinged for arming the Taliban and disarming Israel. Now, I want to make a point here. Just follow with me, all right? And what happened in this reconciliation bill, which is, looks like they're gonna have to piecemeal. It lost the support of Speaking Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema, who is playing her role as a moderate senator, moderate Democrat in Arizona, beautifully. You can say what you want about this woman. Maybe you think she's radical if you're right, you know, to the right, if you're conservative. She is governing or being a senator very, very effectively. That's not even the right word. Wise is the word. I guess what I'm trying to say. She is playing this smart. Anyway, she derailed the pharmaceutical part in the bill. Manchin won't support. Several other parts. I mean, for him, it's really a matter of spending and like putting together all of these big packages. Earlier in the week, AOC said that a parliamentary rule was essentially just a suggestion and that Democrats should forget about it and just move forward anyway. To hell with the parliamentarian ruling. Wow. In the end, she had a major problem with funding the Iron Dome, her and many other of the far left wing of the Democratic Party, which I think generally is growing. And that got stripped out of the reconciliation bill. It is essentially, you know, a $1 billion bill, standalone by itself. She was strong-armed, for once, into changing her vote yesterday from no to present. And for people who know how roll call works, sometimes in order to get a bill passed, you need to have people change even though they may oppose a bill. They will sell out their voters and they will change their vote from no to present to make sure that there is a margin that passes the bill. All right, for people who need American National Government 101. And that is what AOC did yesterday. It is a cop-out, and it is the same thing as voting yes. I'm not talking about the wisdom of the Iron Dome bill itself. Unlike AOC, I'm not 16 years old, and I remember when there wasn't an Iron Dome in Israel. I remember when there were rockets flying from the Gaza Strip on a daily basis, pictures of dead children all over the streets. A cafe one day is there, and the next day it is not. Those who were sitting outdoors, obliterated. bombs on buses, the whole 9 yards, rockets falling on the top of buses going down the street. Mayhem. It's a great way to put it. I lived a little longer than AOC, and I remember that. Now you can talk about settlements and apartheid and all of this. Those of us who are old enough to remember that Israel was not the aggressor and never really was. So you can approve of their existence or not. You could support foreign aid or not. I'm not really getting into that discussion. I'm talking about what kind of a fraud you have to be to call Israel an apartheid state. A state, just so people understand the definite, when someone says apartheid, okay, it means that they are a state that institutionalizes racism, that literally structures the class system based on race. Now, of course, for those who are smart enough, you know that in fact, the history genetically of the Jewish people, the genetic history, the genome of the Jewish people, it doesn't really make them much different from all of the other groups that would later turn into Arabs. So it's not really about race, is it? It's about faith and culture and values. But anyway, let's just pretend that their intellectual argument isn't feeble from the jump. And let's give them that. You are saying Israel is an apartheid state, then you are essentially putting them on the same plane as a Nazi regime. What we know is like the Third Reich, a real one. Not a fake one like Donald Trump because he was against illegal immigration invading the United States without the consent of the governed. That's not real fascism or Nazism, folks, okay? Fascism would be more like the federal government mandating that employers force their employees to be vaccinated. That's more like fascism. The economic definition of fascism. But I digress. You are saying Israel is like the Third Reich, who put millions of Jews in ovens and starved them and shot them against walls and put them in camps and watched them wither away to nothing.
It is an insult to say.
I mean, it's just think about what you're really right. Just think about what you really. And I'm not saying that Jews could not one day do something like that. I'm not. I just what I'm saying is think about what you're really saying before you make these hyperbolic comments. Mm-hmm. So if you're AOC and you think, whoa, institutionalized racism, kind of like the founding fathers, right? Just bear with me for a second. They hate those guys. They were just racist white slave owners. Now, to AOC's apologists, they'll say, well, she had to do that in order to get a bunch of other things in the reconciliation bill to pass the House. It's for the greater good. She sold out and funded a racist nation for the greater good. Apartheid state who will use that money to oppress and murder people that they don't think are human. Let's just put it all on the table here. But she did it. Her apologists, like some of my trolls on Twitter, would say she did it for the greater good. You know what? You just liked her as a whipping post. The right wing just thinks AOC is the right wing's favorite whipping post. That's a real cute way to distract from the actual core of what we're talking about here. That is cute, but it has nothing to do with what we are actually discussing. I did not make AOC sell out. The Democratic Party did. Republicans, who I'm not defending by pointing out AOC's a sellout, she is. She's a fraud. But I'm not defending Republicans by pointing that out. But even if I was, Republicans didn't make AOC sell out. Democrats did.
AOC's a twit.
Well, I know you can't stand the woman. Just bear with me for a second here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nowhere in this sad, unfortunate turn of events are the Republicans the bad guys. Nowhere in this was there some ethereal boogeyman who came out of nowhere and forced AOC to betray everything she claims to believe in, to fund and enable an apartheid racist state who will take that money and murder Arabs. You understand what I'm saying? The Democrats did. Now, is it for the greater good? So wait, we're going to justify funding the murder, the wholesale murder of the Palestinians by saying somehow it was for the greater good. That's funny, because these same people who make these ridiculous arguments don't see how the founding fathers traded the birth of a nation for the postponement of the question of slavery. Did AOC get the birth of a nation in exchange for this? Do you realize how stupid you sound? 300 years almost later? Little different, don't you think? So the founding fathers, Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin, who had the most hand in the writing of the Declaration, damn well knew when they were putting that in the Declaration that they were ending slavery. They were just doing it 50 years from now. But that's never good enough for these people who hate them. But they still somehow find it in their heart to make an excuse for AOC giving $1 billion to the apartheid Israel state to fund the murder of the Palestinian people. Doesn't anybody else see the ridiculousness in their position? Whatever AOC got for being a traitor to her own voters and her own fan base, it is nowhere near on par with the birth of a nation almost 300 years ago who chose to postpone the question of women's suffrage and slavery. Do you realize how stupid those comparisons are?
Probably not. She probably doesn't know.
And if it's amazing because you could show them a letter from John Adams to Abigail. Take them, babe, sweetheart. Let me do the modern equivalent.
Let me do the
because Abigail was like, you know what? If you're gonna do this and be radicals, you might as well give women the right to vote, and you might as well free the slaves. We all know it's gotta happen anyway. Baby, hold up, sugar. Hold up. If we're about to turn the world upside down with this, we're about to change the nature of the social contract. We're going to birth a nation. We're upending Hobbes and replacing him with Locke. If we move too fast, the whole thing can come undone. And instead of a orderly transition to small r Republican government and liberty, it will be a total catastrophe and calamity that will tear the very fabric of society apart. So just slow your roll, girl. We'll get there.
Back it up.
Back it up. Somehow that's racist. And the white, patriarchal, dominant, colonial man imposing his evil will on everybody else. But AOC can sell out so she can eat shrimp tonight. Believe me, nothing AOC got is going to make this rise to that occasion. Is going to make this rise to that level of the questions that the founding fathers had to tackle and had to wrestle with. Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. He was also in love with one. And he's also the author of the document that ended the entire institution.
True story.
Read his essay on the rights of man that went out to the British King, went to King George before the Declaration. It's it verbatim almost. It's more radical than the Declaration. But Franklin and Adams thought, you know what, Thomas? We can't go that far just yet. We're trying to find agreement here. Let's not scare the hell out of the Continental Congress and make them run back to their colony. We need a unified front to fight the British, to start this new nation. Somehow, the frauds like AOC can't find it in their tiny brains to understand that line of thinking, yet they can justify funding an apartheid state, $1 billion to murder the Arabs, so they can get something in their reconciliation bill. Little silly when you put it into its proper context, isn't it? Little silly. Little intellectually dishonest. Irrational. Illogical. Unreasonable. But we gotta take down statues of people all over the country because of the choice that they made. We gotta wipe brilliant generals. We gotta scrub them from the history record like the Egyptian priests chiseled away Akhenaten. Because they made a decision in their historical context. Yet this woman, why is this so important? She is the mouth of the anti-left, anti-Israel, or anti-constitutional, anti-Israel left. She is their mouthpiece. And I actually feel bad for the Bernie Sanders AOC wing of the Democratic Party. Why? Because you're constantly getting bent over and sold out. You think Republicans got it bad? And they do. Bernie got robbed not once, but twice. And he still sold out his voters. That's why they all went to Donald Trump. Because they were tired of the selling out. AOC comes. We should just end the filibuster and hog tie and gag the parliamentarian because that's just, a suggestion. Yeah, real tough girl. And then she cries on the floor. That's called shame. That's called shame.
I call it acting.
Maybe it is acting.
You know me.
I mean, the woman went from waitress nobody. Her entire biography was fake. All you had to do was visit the domain names of the so-called companies that she claimed to start. They didn't exist. They went to GoDaddy, purchased this domain. I mean, I've never seen such a fraud in one single candidate in my life.
Well,
I have never seen it.
She concentrates on getting mortgages for the homeless. Those are serious issues. She needs to help those homeless people with their mortgages.
And you know what, though?
And she
it just
did
goes,
say that.
and that's why it's like, don't take me criticizing her as some kind of defense of Republicans, because these people are so stupid, they haven't even figured out how to answer someone like her yet. You know what I mean? This is how you do it, by pointing out that she's just a complete fraud. Don't mock how dumb she is. We all know she's an idiot. We all know she's an imbecile. And I mean that intellectually. Mm-hmm. I'm not name calling. I mean the definition idiot in Merriam-Webster. Well, who's the real idiot? Her or Mitch McConnell? If you can't effectively counter-argue somebody that unserious, somebody that fake. When she started and gained traction, and honestly, Nancy Pelosi's just as much to blame.
Oh, yeah.
Her and her lieutenants, they knew she was a fraud. They knew all of that stuff was fake. You think they didn't have their own oppo on her? Mm-hmm. It was a complete phony.
Fabrication.
A fabrication of a person. Mm-hmm. They fabricated a person. And a resume out of whole cloth. And now that person is the de facto leader of that movement. one of the most hyperbolic members of Congress, and definitely most vocal, if not top 3, vocal critic of the state of Israel. And crying like a little baby on the floor of the House does not change that she is a freaking sellout. If you really believe that a nation is a murderous, racist nation, nothing that Nancy Pelosi could offer you is worth that price. Nothing. How dare you criticize the people who founded this nation? You couldn't walk a mile. Forget about it. You couldn't walk a foot in their shoes. They didn't even trade their principles for the birth of a nation, because they knew in the end they forced it to confront that evil. They did it on purpose. If you would read once in a while, you'd know that. No, I mean, this is a major problem in this country. It's not just her. It's many people who buy into many people who buy it, who buy this garbage. They're lazy. They may pick up the latest book on Amazon they heard on MSNBC, revisionist history, part a million. They were too damn lazy to pick up primary sources because they don't understand it's not Old English. They don't understand the dialect of the day. No. It's hard to read through primary sources when you don't really know anything about that culture. You can criticize the hell out of them, but you don't know a damn thing about them. Too freaking lazy to learn. So you haven't read a primary source doc in your miserable fake existence of a life. Mm-hmm. If you did, you would know those men knew exactly what the hell they were doing. Exactly what they were doing.
But then she would have to confront the truth.
And they're much smarter. Right. Break their worldview. That's right. That's right. World. You're 100% correct. It would just stop her earth from spinning on its axis because it's all a lie. It's a total. You would be surprised because of how they're smeared now. Thomas Jefferson, quote, trembled at the thought that God was going to smite them over Mr. Deist himself. Later in life, worried about supernatural retribution for slavery. His words. But again, you'd have to actually read something.
Outside of your body.
You'd have to do your own work and think for yourself.
Wait,
something called this thing they really hate. Critically thinking. Oh my God. Don't even.
Stop it.
Don't you dare suggest that.
That word is like the demon.
It's a sin.
Oh no.
Blasphemous.
Mm-hmm.
It's blasphemous against the state. They tell you what to think. Mm-hmm. How dare you suggest thinking for yourself? I'm sick. I mean, you watched something like that freaking display yesterday, and then she cried. Oh, boo.
They have to run back to the altar of MSNBC to pray.
Mommy. Right. She's got to go. She's got to go repent. She's gonna go get her whip and like self. What do they call that? They're gonna like, yeah. She's gonna get down and like whip herself. Like, what is that called, guys? You guys know what you're talking. Scourging. It's not scourging. Scourging. Is it? No, what is it? When like priests they used to beat themselves because they look at a woman's bosom, and it's like, oh my God, I'm a sinner. Get down. Whoosh, whoosh. Flagellate. Right. That's it.
Yes, self-flagellate.
Self-flagellate.
Somebody confirmed it.
She's gonna go self-flagellate.
Thank you.
Mom, I'm everything I hated. I'm everything I do. Hey, look, you know what, lefties? Maybe now you can get on board with the rest of us who have been calling for term limits for a long time. Because this is what you can expect. The longer they are there, I can prove it to you mathematically. The higher the tenure, the worse it gets. The longer they stay, the more corrupt they will become. And mark my words, AOC will be pocketing money from coal companies by the end of this puppy. Look how easy it was for Pfizer to buy all these people. And not just Pfizer, Big Pharma. The left literally went from anti-Big Pharma. The FDA also approved Oxycontin, remember? They also told us that was safe, remember? They went from that to everybody shooting experimental drug without question in a year and a half. All it took was a few sniffles, and they all ran to have their asses wiped by the federal government. Dr. Fauci, wipe my bottom for me. Speaking of which, Joe Biden in his another disgraceful speech today filled with lies about the unvaccinated. Let's read, shall we? Please direct yourself to my Twitter account where I will show you the national trend in hospitalizations and compare it to California, one of the most vaccinated states in the country. Is California making a positive contribution to our hospitalization rates? No! You know who has fallen this week? 28%? The state of Florida.
What? Say it ain't so.
Incredibly, compare Alachua County to Baker. 46% versus nearly now 80% vaccinated. We're talking too about jabbing these little children. Let me give you the latest COVID-19 weekly situation report. Death overview, they call it. Age group under 16. 460,000 cases. Case fatality rate 0.0.
What?
Mortality per 100,000 0.5. For a grand total of 16. 16. That's it. 16 to 29. 794,158 total cases. This is from the 10th of 2021 to the 16th that week, cumulative. Case fatality rate, 16 to 29, 0.0%. Mortality per 100,000, 9.1. 340 total deaths. The whole damn pandemic. The entire pandemic. This is the latest number for this week in that state. Where does the case fatality rate come from? Does that sound like to you like it's a lot? Well, the mortality per 100,000 for 65 plus is 860. I will say this one more damn time, and I retweeted the user. If you're listening right now on Twitter, that's why you earned a retweet. This isn't a pandemic of the unvaccinated. This is a pandemic of the elderly and unhealthy. And sadly, we had an aging population in this country. Everybody wants to know what goes into real number crunching. You have to compare health statistics, age statistics with other countries before you even consider whether or not their policies worked better than ours because of raw numbers. That is superficial data analysis. And yet I've watched so-called data gurus do it the whole damn pandemic. This is a pandemic of the elderly and unhealthy. Mortality per 100,000, 65 plus, 820. 860 now, excuse me. That was prior week. Case fatality rate, 8.8. How significant is that? The very next age group, 60 to 64, listen to the difference. Case fatality rate versus the 8.8 for 65 plus, 2.1. That's it. Mortality per 100,000 versus the 860.2 for 65 plus. 60 to 64, 277. That's what we call statistically significant. All the way down to the under 16 category, which we're going to start poisoning people with. Poisoning people in. The latest category to be poisoned, even though our research, and yeah, I know what I'm doing. Even though our research and the research of others, that Dr. Malone and others have been trying to get out. Dr. Roy have been trying to get out. Case fatality rates and adverse effects, take it all in its totality. And it's worth it for those people that we discussed with the higher mortality per 100,000, the higher case fatality rates. It's worth taking the risk. Maybe it should be a personal decision. I have people. I'm a now 40-year-old man. I have elders in my family. They had to make that decision. You got to respect it if that's what they chose to do. But I am not jabbing my 12-year-old son who beat COVID in 2 days. Right?
True story.
I am not jabbing him with a vaccine because Joe Biden is pressuring me to do it.
He chewed it up, spit it out.
I will yank my children out of school. So help me God. After looking at the research on myocarditis in that age group, specifically with young boys. Females, a slew of other crap you got to worry about. And by the way, I didn't even show you the findings. I got to show them to you. I got to show you Roy, Dr. Roy. He's like the only one looking at autopsies and tissue of you know, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to get, you know.
Somebody said incoming in 6 months. If you want to take your newborn home from the hospital, they need the jab. I would flip.
This ain't no damn vitamin K shot.
Nope.
Listen, I'm not saying anything that's not true here. I'm reading before you know, we got to go through the appellate process again. I'm reading from the situation report. That's all. As a matter of fact, I'm going to upload it right now, even though I know how you guys hate that crap because of what happens. Let me look at the name of it. I am going to show you right now the difference between national. This is the CDC hospitalization. Just so everybody knows, this isn't medical misinformation. Okay? Hold on. This is from the Centers for Disease Control. Okay? Accuse them of misinformation if you'd like. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys to see. 1280 by, let's give it 720 so it expands out the whole way. Okay? There we go. All right, did I just, yeah, 1280 by 720. Lock aspect ratio, it should lock and fill height. Boom! There we go. Here we go. Here's the entire pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. This is hospitalizations with the CDC from the entire pandemic. To the left is the national trend. To the right is California. You will see the difference in California and the national trend because California is so vaccinated. Oh, wait, you don't. In fact, they have two spikes in hospitalizations when the nation as a whole only had one. That's odd. That's strange. Joe Biden told me that the states that do that are the states who are being rewarded with less hospitalizations. That doesn't seem to be true. Wyoming. Have you looked at hospitalizations in the state of Wyoming yet? Why am I mentioning Wyoming? They're the least vaccinated state in the nation. If we can't talk about this stuff honestly, then we're never going to find any real solutions. And that's really the sad part to all of this. We have so much good research coming out. And like we have seen from the beginning of this pandemic, it either gets censored or just muted. Muted. So we go from a lab leak theory being a conspiracy theory and wasting an ungodly amount of money on hundreds of thousands of samples attempting to prove natural origin, to now 70% of Americans believing that that is the most likely scenario. Lab leak was the most likely scenario. That started as a conspiracy theory. 8 months ago, it was a conspiracy theory. Right? Still, 8 months ago. In fact, in the Lancet, Fauci and company reprinted their letter condemning anyone in the scientific field from challenging the natural origin theory. Smearing them, condemning and smearing them as conspiracy theorists, even though they had not a shred of scientific evidence to back it up. Not a shred. This omission of information is becoming a real problem.
Matt.
What are you talking about?
Braynard.
I thought that was Thursday.
Friday. Today's Friday.
Oh, he was for Friday? Mm-hmm. Wow, that you could have pulled me aside and did quietly.
Sorry.
That was the appropriate way to handle that.
Well,
what time was it?
It's 11:40, so call him.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's putting me on the spot a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to send it to you. You send it to him. Okay? Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bear with me, folks. And I'm glad he is, because then we can talk about a little bit about Arizona, but I really wanted to discuss how the FBI tried to infiltrate his rally. I got calls from everywhere. People showing me TikToks who I've never heard of before. You know, like, this is some kind of, like, red flag, false flag operation, and the guy who's running this, I'm like, really? How many times have you spoken to him? Are you kidding me? Of course the FBI was going to try to do something. The FBI is a criminal organization at this point. Of course they were going to try to to mess up his rally and discredit it. And, the only one arrested was an undercover agent. We'll talk about that, though, when he comes on. All right, so, that there concludes my rant for now. For now. I just feel like it's worth the risk, because if we don't start having an honest conversation, if we don't stop oppressing and suppressing all different points of view, then we're never going to get good information. If politicians like Joe Biden don't stop going to the microphone and wholesale lying to the American public the way that he does, not about stupid small things or little minutia details, but big things, narratives, something that should be fundamental to a problem and how we solve it as a matter of policy making. We cannot do this. We cannot have this. 60% of people right now in Miami-Dade waiting for monoclonal antibody treatments in bad condition are vaccinated. 60%. And don't give me this hospitalization nonsense. I just spoke to a doctor in Alachua County. He is now the third medical physician who is in a position of power in his facility, at his site. A director or some position of power to tell me how they scam this whole thing to make what Joe Biden says, Florida. Look, we see their hospitals are at full capacity because they just refuse to listen. This is now the third physician to tell me how they make that lie stick. Let's say, for instance, Malcolm Randall Veterans Hospital in Gainesville, Florida, designates 5 beds to COVID patients. And at any given day, all 5 of those beds are taken up with COVID patients. It matters not that they have 95 other beds that they could give to other people for COVID. They are 100% at capacity. And as somebody pointed out, what dictates the number for those beds, because somebody made a good response on Twitter, and this is how they do that. I'm going to tell you right now. Where did they get the 5-bed number from? Is it arbitrary? No, it's based on staffing. So if, let's say, a certain North Carolina hospital system fires 350 employees because they won't get the vaccination, then you're going to have beds, fewer beds, and you're going to have more hospitals claim to be operating at full capacity. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. That's how it works. He's not there yet. All right, just to let you know. So that's how. So when you're saying, yeah, I heard that it's based, the number of beds is based on staffing. How many nurses are on that day? How many doctors are on that day? Okay. All right. Yeah, you just do your thing. You know what?
It
You could
didn't deliver through my computer, so I need my phone.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I do it, but it's probably best if you do it. Or you know what? We could tell him if he wants to. I don't know what his schedule's like, but if he wants to move it, we can move it. I'm fine with that. So Governor Kemp will have a higher approval rating in Georgia, and it's not as bad as I thought it was. That's why raw data is always funny, but it isn't great because there is a huge number of people who claim that they approve of Governor Kemp in Georgia. Moving on. Yes, I'm moving on because now I realize that she has squished my segments here. All right. So I'm going to have to move on. African Americans, 12.4% claim to strongly approve of Brian Kemp. If you look at how many of them are Democrats, quite a few are. Do we really think that those people are going to vote for Brian Kemp in the primary? Georgia is a state where black voters can vote for Republican candidates at higher rates than we see in the nation as a whole. All right, but the bottom line is he has a lot of Democrats, about a third, who claim to approve of the job he's doing. Do you really think a third of Democrats are going to vote for Brian Kemp against a Democratic candidate? The answer to that, I will tell you right now, is absolutely not. He is hurting very badly among his own party. About a quarter of the Republican Party in Georgia flat out can't stand him. And you cannot win with that kind of base erosion. It doesn't matter whether you think a third of Democrats really do approve of you or not. They will not vote for you. But Kemp is way ahead in the Republican primary for governor. And I'll see the notice when he gets it. And it's quite fine if he needs to reschedule because all this got messed up. I thought it was an off day and we were taping that. I really did.
Gonna tape it,
that's
but
what I
then
remember.
Said yes, and I said yes, but I mentioned it in the middle of another conversation too, and we were bouncing back and forth. So
all right, okay.
That's my bad for not clarifying though.
Herschel Walker is he's got a pretty big lead on Raphael Warnock. He takes more of the Democratic vote, even though they're both pretty locked. He takes more of the Democratic vote than Warnock takes of the Republican vote. They're about tied when weighted correctly for independent. In the raw, Walker led among independents in the raw data. And actually, I wonder, let me look at party detail. I wonder if third-party voters change that or not. Let me check that out. Let's look specifically. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, actually, among third-party voters, Warnock has about an 8-point lead. Third party, what do I mean by that? Maybe they're libertarians. Maybe they're the Constitution Party. Maybe they're Green Party. That. True independents are tied at 36% each. 28% of them are undecided. Very, very common at this point right now for independents to say they're undecided. It is very early. All right, so Walker has his base more decided behind him than we see Democrats. We also see Republicans slightly even though no matter what it says when it comes out. The likely voter model favored Republicans. In general, Republicans are pretty juiced, and they're much more locked on their guy. So, for instance, it's very, very small, but about 1.5 points back Walker more than Democrats who back Warnock. Only 2% of Republicans are going to vote for the Democrat on the generic ballot versus 5% of Democrats who are going to vote for the Republican. So it's it I thought I did bring in the thing. He stepped aside for a second. I'm waiting for him to come back. I thought I did bring in.
No, he's there now.
All right. Yeah. So I got the live output for him. He should be able to hear me okay. You can hear me okay, Matt? You over there? Yeah, I can indeed. Then let's go ahead and bring you on. All right. That was kind of like last minute. I apologize for that. I thought we were doing. I have totally had wires crossed since you turned, and I guess you forgot to remind me. But I'm glad we got you because I've been dying to ask you some questions since
No problem.
since your rally. Welcome back to Inside the Numbers. How you been?
Doing really good. Very glad about our successful rally this past Saturday. We're looking forward to having, we had 3 rallies on that day, DC, North Carolina, and Washington State. We have an additional, I think, about 15 this coming Saturday. I'll personally be in Columbia, South Carolina for one of those. We have another staff member going to Nashville, and we've got a really good program all across the board with all of these rallies.
Yeah, I would have gone there. I don't know if you know this, but we all did. Caught the COVID, caught the Wu flu. So had to, I was feeling better by the time the rally came about, but I was, probably still needed to stay away from people. So we did, but I was very, I'm not surprised at all, Matt, to see how many people, so-called conservatives, and I saw you responded to them on Twitter, so-called conservatives talking about, don't go to the January 6th rally. This is a false flag. The FBI organized this rally. I mean, it's just crazy stuff I saw. And, I really got to give you a chance to respond to that. I think you dealt with it well, but what's your take on how many, and I don't need to name them, but the, blue check conservatives were making ridiculous comments like that. What was your take on that? Of course, if the FBI was going to butt in, Matt, of course they were.
Right.
But go ahead.
I'm kind of glad that they did that because now people know who they can trust and who they cannot.
Yeah.
And just remember, how many of these geniuses warned you about January 6th? 0. And then we have a legitimate First Amendment exercise, and they say, oh, no, that's the false flag attack. That's the one that you don't want to go to. Look, my first job as somebody that organizes is to make sure everybody who comes is safe and gets home safe. That was true. Even the media's misreporting, they said that there were 4 arrests. There were 0 arrests. There were some people not affiliated with us way before the rally got busted in DC because it's DC, right? And one person who was at the rally who was an off-duty customs agent, legally able to have a firearm, and they just escorted him away. He wasn't, and again, the media and all the checkmark types are wrong. Again, it wasn't an undercover Fed or anything. He was just off-duty, came to see the rally. One of our very observant attendees noticed an outline, brought it to the attention of police checked him out, and then they just walked away with him. He wasn't arrested or charged or anything.
Yeah, that was, and when they reported that at the time, must have known that was not true. And I mean, some of this just looked like intentional lying, and some of it just looked like, they want to jump the gun, Matt, and they want it to say, well, look, see, already we got somebody from this rally in custody.
Well, look, the media didn't come to hear our message. The media came because they wanted bloodshed. They wanted to see mass arrests or some people, a large number misbehaving. And the reality is that this is an extension of the civil rights movement, where in the past it was about race and other protected classes. Now it's about political beliefs, and the same tactics that were used against the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s is trying to infiltrate, trying to smear peaceful demonstrations as being violent, and sometimes with the help of law enforcement. That's nothing new, but we did a very good job countering that. And what's really important is we showed people is that, look, the First Amendment still belongs to them, that they can exercise their constitutional rights and engage in real community organizing. Because look, the blue checks and all those folks who are throwing shade on this, they're a bunch of grifters. Just don't pay them any attention. But the problem is that so many people believe them, and many of those civilians who believe them, the reason is because they've never seen a legitimate community organizing effort on the America First right before. They've never seen it before because, there were some fits and starts sort of with Tea Party, but then that also degenerated into a grift. But this is what we're trying to build here, is a real movement, sustainable across multiple states, engaged in all of the community organizing activities, beginning with voter registration and education, educating state legislators, educating city council members on different issues, going before school boards, holding these mass protests, filing lawsuits, all of the tools that have always been in the toolbox of the civil rights movement. Well, we can use them too, and it's about time.
Yeah, it's amazing how the roles have flipped here, Matt. It really is. It's amazing that those very same it's like the modern left, or whatever you want to even call them. The supporters of the administrative state, whatever, a cabal of groups of people that make up that cabal have basically adopted, those tactics that were used against what we commonly refer to as the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s. And I'll tell you what, I think people are going to be rewarded for being on coming down on the right side of this, and others are going to be punished, Matt. Eventually people are trusted right now, by these so-called blue check grifters, but that the more of these things happen, the less they will be trusted. And I saw some of that with your rally. So I saw what happened with your rally. I can tell you, I witnessed it make a difference with people who followed, people who trusted other voices. I can see that it changed some, people's minds toward those grifters, which is good, because we're always overcrowded, and there's always it's crowded, and you can't tell which voice in the crowd you're supposed to be listening to, or one that you can trust and believe, moving forward. And the community organizing effort, look at Joe Kent. We had him on right before your rally. Look at Joe Kent. He's had the guts he was there, he spoke at your rally, he gave a great speech. He has, if it's not the most on fire grassroots campaign in this country right now, it's one of them. But,
right, and I'd add Mike Collins to that list as well, because he also had the courage to come and speak. Whereas of all, there are other members of Congress who have been friendly to us, but most of them have just ignored our message and don't want it. Their belief is that this January 6th narrative will go away if they ignore it.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work. And you can see that because they're trying to get these additional memos out of the White House to have discovery in this phony select committee or whatever it is. And they're just not going to let this die. The only way to defeat this is to counter it, to tear it out by the roots, to tear out every little lie about there ever being an insurrection to begin with, and to point out that these alleged insurrectionists, by and large, were completely peaceful, have been charged on trumped up charges that no one has ever been charged with to this degree before or sentenced. I was actually at my rally. A woman, one of the leaders, the founders of Code Pink, came up to me, and she talked to me, and she said that, look, I was at the Kavanaugh hearings. I was arrested 25 times for interrupting them and for trespassing, and I was just hit with a $50 fine. I came back and did it the same day. So this disparate treatment over political beliefs is really at the heart of this movement and this cause for justice for J6.
And some person actually accused that woman of being at that rally for $50.
It was a journalist. They calling themselves to be a journalist. Yeah.
It was so ridiculous, Matt. Number one, that's just somebody who doesn't know how things go. Even if they saw it, they wouldn't recognize something like that, obviously. But I think that this idea you can ignore it and it goes away. I mean, that is completely foolish. One of the things, speaking of Joe, one of the things he had said when we were talking about your rally in that interview, everyone is out of Afghanistan. They are going to be looking for someone to draw their fire, right? Mm-hmm. So in case people aren't paying attention, it's you. It's Middle America. It's America first. That is who will be the focus of the next war against a straw man. The war on terror will shift onto the war on domestic terror. I mean, I don't think people's eyes are quite open enough, and without activities like what you guys are doing, they'll just remain shut. Yeah. So right.
And well, they kept asking me if I thought they kept asking if the event was a success, because based on media estimates, Epic Times and Not the Bee and a few others, they said maybe 400 to 450 of our people, maybe 200 journalists there. And people were asking, well, is that a success? Well, the reality is that it was a success before it even started, because in the weeks leading up to it, I get the alerts of all the news coverage that we get on local stations, local radio, etc. And we were getting, and it shows the dollar value, the estimated dollar values. We're getting millions and millions of dollars of coverage on this issue. And while the media tried to smear us as being supportive of violence or supportive of the violence that happened on January 6th, anybody that actually looked at what we were doing out of curiosity saw that clearly wasn't the case. So no matter how many people I had turned out that day, even if it was 10,000, that would have been dwarfed by the number of people who saw the live coverage happening just that day. I mean, on our tiny little feed at Look at America, we had 35,000 views of the video. It was also on C-SPAN and all the other networks.
I saw you on C-SPAN. I did. That's exactly where I saw it. It was on
and
C-SPAN.
and we appreciate their coverage. So it was a great success because we were able to get a tremendous amount of media, and the left and the political left in Capitol Hill, they put up the fences, they put out the stormtroopers, all this, and it looked kind of ridiculous. And it was meant to intimidate. It was, I think, not successful because we did what we were supposed to do. And now people should have courage. Look at lookaheadamerica.org/rally and see if there's a rally in your state, and go to it this Saturday. I think we've got one the following Saturday as well in Kansas. And if there's not one in your state, sign up to volunteer. Join our grassroots movement. We'll train you. We'll give you support. And that's an indication that, look, if we don't have a rally in your state, we need help in your state. So please sign up and help to volunteer at lookaheadamerica.org.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, there's really some of the things I heard with them go. The preparations they made before this. They can burn down a historical church. The left can have crowds of people that burn down historical churches, turn over cars, and light them on fire before inaugurations. No offense. But for your organization, which, I mean, the amount of lying I saw from so-called journalists, you have always, you give basically conduct. If you guys go to a Look Ahead America event, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're going to get an email. It's going to tell you how to behave, what is and is not appropriate. I mean, you will just simply not see this level of preparedness and control. Right. Or, direction. Direction is
direction,
not control. You will not see that from left-wing groups who, storm these very same places and are not met with the same level of resistance and skepticism. It's ridiculous. Tell me about the other events that you did do, because you had simultaneous events, basically, right?
Yeah, we had a really good event with great turnout and media coverage as well. in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one in Washington State at their capital. Unfortunately for Washington State, they had bad weather, but we still had a good, strong turnout. I'm really looking forward to our event in Arizona. We actually have the Trump-endorsed candidate for Secretary of State who's going to be speaking there, Mark Finchem. We have other congressional candidates. I think Walt Blackman, who's running out there, is going to show up and speak. We've got state legislators who are going to come and show up at that event. And we did one in Arizona. Look, when we did the rally at the prison where you were, we actually had about 8 or 9 simultaneous rallies there then across the country. And now we're up to like, I think 16 or 17 statewide, nationwide. The one in Arizona that happened simultaneous to the prison rally had about 300 people at it, and it was a very good turnout. I know we're going to have a big rally with good speakers in Boston, in Massachusetts. We're going to have a great rally in California. We're going to have a great rally because I'm going to be at it in South Carolina and in all of these states in between. I had a conference call, as they do with all of our state leaders last week. We've got up to 40 state leaders now, and everybody was excited about their plans. And what's really inspiring about this is that many of the people who are organizing these rallies, who are state volunteer coordinators for Look at America, they've never had any political involvement before. I was in Wyoming for a patriotic event there a few weeks ago with our state volunteer coordinator who's holding the event in Wyoming. She's never done anything in politics before. She just saw something was wrong. I want to get engaged. And now she's leading the effort. She's booking radio ads. She's working with cops, getting the permits, and having a very successful rally, no doubt, this Saturday. And I just want to encourage people. It's time to get off the bench. Come on. This isn't going to happen without you.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Matt, I mean, there are some places people will, always think, well, if you're a Republican, you visit, you organize in these areas. Democrats don't cede any territory. They'll go into rural America. They'll go into inner city America. And all of the campaigns that I'm looking at now that are gaining traction, some of them are in D+20 districts, and yet I'm just amazed at the movement there. I mean, you mentioned California before. The recall vote did not go the way Republicans thought it would, but amazingly, in one district where there is more direct face-to-face interaction with the community, a D+20 district voted to recall Gavin Newsom, and I really believe it could absolutely swing if Republicans have a typical first-term incumbent midterm. That district,
I think I know that district.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
For everybody, I'm talking about California 16. That should have shocked everybody when they looked at that vote.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the secret sauce there, Matt? The guy is getting in front of people, and he's
I'll take off my nonpartisan Look at America 501c3 hat and just put on my political analyst hat and say that, look, the Republicans in that district have a fantastic candidate in David Giglio.
Yeah.
That man is a legend now when it comes to raising money. He does it like no one else ever has. He has an incredibly magnetic personality, and he's basically a full-time candidate. And he's got a very good campaign operation out there. They are out there with multiple shows of force every week, like whether they're outside of Walmart or at a farmer's market or at some other show, and doing everything that needs to be done. They're way ahead of the curve. And I mean, they're starting to scare the incumbent Democrat into a little bit of defense. And we'll see what happens, because I'm sure the candidate, David Giglio, is going to report a very solid Q3. And, Jim Costa, his opponent, is going to have to decide whether or not he wants to fight a real race or maybe just even retire.
That's right, because he has not. It's been one of those areas where Republicans have not been doing what you and other candidates have been trying to do this year, and I think effectively are doing it, and they've just kind of gotten by. They're not real races. Republicans see them. The California Republican Party has been asleep at the wheel trying to defend Orange County and San Diego, and that's it. It's like a retreat strategy. It doesn't make sense with it. Whereas in 16, David is a perfect example of how you go on offense and you speak to everybody. Connor Lamb was not scared at a Rick Saccone's district because Donald Trump won the district. Because he went around and he spoke to people. That district is now different. It's been recarved up and changed. But they should take a cue from Democrats, which I think you guys are doing. I think 2020, sometimes the best thing for one side is to get their butt kicked, really, and then you build from the ground up, and you say, what have I been lacking? What have I been doing wrong? Why am I not reaching people? Why am I not reaching certain people? And that's the best thing that can happen
And it
from it.
created somebody like you, Matt.
And it creates
Mhm.
actions create reactions, and it created what your organization's doing now. You shifted gears, and by the way, if I'll be negligent if I don't ask you about your original gear. What do you think about Arizona today? I started off the show saying let me read the rest of the report, but honestly, Matt, we've spoken about this before. It doesn't really deal with certain issues anyway. So what are your thoughts on it?
Look, I mean, I need to give it a real
Me too.
careful look, but I will say that Look Ahead America is doing our own analysis on very different issues with that vote, and I'm hopeful that we'll have our report out sometime in the middle of October. We're much smaller. We do not have $5 to $10 million that they dropped onto that. We are spending about total cost of this project is probably going to be less than $100,000 to do finish our analysis of Arizona. But I think it will show something very different, and it's indicating that. So, we'll have to read that report more carefully. We'll have to see the people responsible for it testifying and give full answers. And but then Look Ahead America has its own report similar to the Georgia and Wisconsin report. In those states, we demonstrated the margin of victory was surpassed by the number of illegal ballots. We'll see what our Arizona report shows.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes out. It just approaches it from totally different ways. I just feel like this was more like a CPA's job than
Yeah, with the lazy Susans and just doing a manual count.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, like you said, I really do have to read it thoroughly before I could, to make it, to render a real verdict, right? So yeah, I mean, so people, you have more stuff coming up, Matt. I know you do, but I guess what my next question is: do you think Look Ahead America is going to be doing this same thing 6 months from now? When you first started doing this, it was pretty much, or at least hoped, that certain people, who are in this space would see at what you were doing and kind of step forward. But I guess this last event really did show what grifters some people are. What do you think Look Ahead? Where's Look Ahead America going to be 6 months from now, Matt?
Oh, well, we are starting to expand our voter registration efforts into multiple states. We are starting to pick up a new issue on CRT, where we're going to be pushing Board of Education to pass resolutions condemning. And I think that's a different tactic than I think a lot of other people have done. It's something that's more concrete, but it's also, I would consider, a much easier basket than any kind of legislative solution.
Right.
And today we're actually rolling out for the first time our America First candidate briefing, where we are reaching out to newly filed candidates for House and Senate and preparing briefings for them on issues which they don't normally get. And today's briefing will be on abuse of worker visa programs. So this is sort of like, believe it or not, many people running for office, they don't really have a great understanding of a lot of issues. So this is our chance to reach them early and set them right on certain issues. And this is a very complex one. We're going to be doing this on other issues like trade and other issues that are close to the heart of the America First movement. So that starts today. I think that will include about 15 candidates from all over the country and all different parties.
Yeah, that's I'm laughing only because not only candidates don't have grips on the issues. It never ceases to amaze me how so many elected officials in the House and the Senate don't have grasp on the issues. Never assume.
And we're going to continue with this. So we're going to.
What they're doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, Rich. I got a jet, but it's been great being with you, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for being late. All the best, my friend. Stay good. All right.
Have a good day, Matt.
All right, let's take that last minute break here, folks, and then we'll go ahead and bring on Don. I'll leave some time for Q&A. Thanks for Matt for stopping by, really holding himself up because that was last minute. Remember, spontaneous thing. So what I guess I meant by that, real quick before the break, what I meant by that question is some of the people that you would have expected to step forward and take the reins on these issues.
And join forces.
And or at least join forces. Just turned out to be complete. And it's like you were wondering why some of them were silent. And now many of them came, and I saw, come out and say things like, this is going to be a false flag. The FBI is putting together this operation. Well, that just proved it in a nutshell to me. So I was curious to see, expand or, just expand the goal of the organization. What was the plan? And I guess that's what I got. I guess that's the best answer I got. It's interesting giving briefing to legislators. I tell you guys this all the time. It's not just candidates. It's people who are elected. It would not, if you got to know these people, folks, it would not surprise you why the country is so off the rails and why so many times when we see these issues debated in Congress or we see them go on TV and they don't sound like they know what they're talking about, or they refuse to acknowledge something. You would say, well, why would we do this? Because this is the way this... Well, that's why. Because the truth is, many of them are not well informed. And that's both Republicans and Democrats. That is not one party over the other. They speak about things they don't know. And that's the truth of it. All right, look, we're way late on the hour break. We're going to take that break. We'll come back. We'll do some Q&A. We'll bring in Don, and we'll go from there. All right, stay tuned. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away.
All right, I'm ending it early because we are behind. Let's get behind. All right, let's see. Reading through a message right now. Everybody wants some kind of take on Arizona. I gotta read, and I'm talking about not for the show, you guys. I'm getting messages like, hey, can you come on this show and talk about it? No, not until I read the report, not really. But I will say again, I'll reiterate again, that it is a totally different approach than what you would think you would do if you were trying to truly find the outcome of the votes. I mean, that is not what you... Look, guys, there's a reason why the Department of Justice flipped out over the idea of canvassing, what we know to be canvass versus, just simply filling out, checking logs or checking slips. And, that's not really it, But basically, anyway, I'll go ahead and... if they don't realize I'm on the show right now and they're trying to get me, then that's on them. All right, let's go to Q&A. So, and I'm going to ask you guys, until I read it, let's hold off on the Arizona stuff. I'll do a local stream. We can talk about the Arizona stuff, all right? Although I'd much rather spend time on talking about the polling results than Arizona, even after I read it, because, again, it's just not how I would have went about it. When I said that state legislatures needed to call guys like us That's what I meant. You know, should have been multi-pronged. I feel like Republicans kind of took the bait here and got duped again. I mean, I'm gonna leave it at that. All right. Let's
Ready?
cue them up, Laura. Throw them at
All
me. I
right.
know you said I need to make some more time, so I'll hold
Yeah,
off
yeah.
on Georgia results. Let's do some Q&A.
So Sandy wants to know, did you ever get those results of what fraction of people know someone who died from the vaccine?
Well, we didn't ask that because I'm not sure we can. You know, when we were no, we didn't. We asked about personal adverse effects. Because for a few reasons. One, I wanted to mimic VAERS as much as possible. That's how the VAERS system should work. It should be self-reported, right? And then the doctor has to fill out the VAERS report. And what I wanted to see if what we found would indicate that there's either a lack of reporting or VAERS is maybe it's just the VAERS lags, and maybe we'd come right in the same ballpark or something. But that is not it. We did not come within that ballpark. And that's what I wanted to find out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think has the most value to the conversation. Because I think a lot of people would tell you they know somebody who died from it. And maybe even exaggerate it a little bit. I think that may be fair. I don't think people are lying. I'm just saying, I think it would. Do you know somebody? Well, even if you say, do you know somebody personally? You may have heard about a cousin's friend or something. And that's not really personal, but somebody would say, yeah, I do. So it would be, I don't want to say misleading. It's hard when I do work, I want to make sure I'm really nailing down, you know, that target group that I'm trying to research, no matter what it is. And I didn't feel like I could confidently say this many people know somebody personally who took a vaccine and fell not only seriously ill, but died from it. So when you ask people personally about themselves, that's a different story. And I wanted to mimic the CDC's regulations for VAERS as much as possible. No, the FDA's really, how the CDC words it. And I just thought that would add the most to this conversation. By the way, I'm doing an interview, the people who commissioned the poll, they have been doing, it's called CDM, you can go to cdm.press. They gobbled up a little outlet called the Georgia Record, and that's why they wanted to poll Georgia. But I was on their site, and they had a whole slew of interviews with people who have personally suffered adverse effects, whether or not their specific situation was reported to VAERS or not, and how serious it was, what's their story. And you guys should check that out, because I was like stunned. I was working and doing polling and reading them listening to them as I was doing it, and I was like absolutely stunned, you know. But yeah, when you ask personally, I think it has more value.
All right, Jay Patel got to ask Rich about his thoughts of Democrats' idea of minting $1 trillion coins.
It sounds like a Cleveland era free silver scam. You know, I mean, we'll just keep devaluing. Just keep devaluing. Keep, you know, I mean, that's ludicrous to put that kind of amount of supply into the system. That's into circulation. That's crazy. That's nuts. But Democratic policy in general is inflationary policy. So, am I surprised to hear something so stupid? No. But it's stupid.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
All right. Joel wants to know, on his second shot, he was bedridden with joint pain and chills for 36 hours, missed a soccer game, and was 100% man baby. Is that mild or moderate adverse reaction?
Yeah, so that actually prevented daily activity. It didn't. You had how long was it? 72 hours.
36 hours.
He was down for. That prevented daily activity over a period greater than 24 hours, so you had a severe adverse effect. Mild is that you have it, but it does not interfere. All right, that's how the CDC says. So even if you had many of the same symptoms, but they weren't severe enough where they interfered, then you had a mild adverse effect. If you had even again, the symptoms can overlap on whether they're mild, moderate, or severe. It's not. That's what we learned. It's when we were researching how do we categorize this in the past. They had been more structured on what is and is not mild, severe, moderate, and different conditions were put in whether they were severe or moderate or mild. This was different. So it was whether or not you had symptoms, but they did not interfere with daily activity. You had symptoms, they did interfere. And then you had symptoms and they prevented. And then they got choices on what those could have been. So you probably, I mean, just based on what he's saying, I mean, you'd have to read it and judge for yourself. But it seems to have prevented your activities over a period longer than 24 hours. So you had a severe adverse effect. Now, a lot of people get confused on that because they think,
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's why he asked.
Yeah. Like pissing Coca-Cola colored urine
yeah, that's no one.
is a severe adverse effect because it's obviously going to prevent something like we saw with that Anne on the video that I shared. I mean, that's a severe adverse effect. And now her body is basically telling her nervous system is telling her body to die. I mean, that's very, very tragic. Just tragic.
All right. So Jim wanted to know if you ever polled anything related to the heartbeat bill and abortion.
Yes.
And I know.
We did.
So, and what groups are most radical? Are any urban/blacks, Latinos pro-life?
Are you in YouTube or are you in locals?
Jim is in YouTube.
Okay, Jim. Give me 1 second, and I am going to go to the database. I'll leave Georgia. Let me just save it. Let me save my work real quick. Hold on 1 second. And I am going to go to the database. I'll grab that crosstab for you, and I will put it into the YouTube category. That was for Labor Day, right, guys? If I remember correctly. COVID-19 effects. Adverse phases. I'm just going to give the whole crosstab.
Make life simple.
Yeah. But you can go down, go to the row column, and you will see abortion designation, and then support or opposition to abortion during certain periods of time in the pregnancy. And after a heartbeat has been detected is the heartbeat bill, okay? There's also after doctors determine a baby can feel pain, which is the 20-week bill, all right? And then during the final 3 months of the pregnancy, which is what we know as late-term abortion. And just if you really, and then there's any time during the pregnancy. All right, let me go ahead and just hit share real quick, email a link. I'll have to do it to myself, get a link, and then give it to him, okay? Director at bigdadabomb.com. Okay. And this is YouTube, right?
Yes.
Right.
I would also put it on. He is also a locals follower.
There it is. All right. All these other ones are coming through. I haven't checked my email today, so it all just started to flood in. All right. Let me go to. Can I send it to you and then you send it? Is that cool? Okay. Because otherwise it'll.
Glitch out.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So there is the link. That's the market site crosstabs. And just to give you a little bit of an idea on the heartbeat bill itself. Support, oppose. 18 to 29 age group was the only group that supported abortion after a heartbeat has been detected based on race detail. Let's do race detail. Whites were opposed to it plus 18. Blacks were opposed to it plus 8. Hispanics were opposed to it plus 7. Asians were opposed. It's basically tied. 37.6 to 38. American Indians were opposed to it. American Indian, Alaskan Native opposed plus 15. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander opposed plus 25. And all other racial groups opposed plus about 20. That's interesting, actually. And then what he brought up race and what? And with gender, by the way, females were opposed plus 12. And males were opposed plus 17. So, I mean, it was widely This was like the funny thing about this. We did this just as Joe Biden was basically instructing his Department of Justice to prosecute people who abided by the state law. And then the Supreme Court weighed in. But the bottom line is, this bill is supported. It's a funny thing with abortion. Abortion is an odd category, all right? So when we look at abortion designation, this has been very close for many years in our polling. Pro-choice now only has a 1-point edge when you round. It only has a 1-point edge on pro-life. We recently even found pro-life over pro-choice. But even in those periods where pro-choice had a pretty healthy lead, when you asked specifics, guys, specifics, which I think we started to do back during the Herman Gosnell trial or something in Philadelphia. I forgot when we got, how long ago that was. We got a very big project on abortion to deal with the very specifics and minutia about positions on and views toward abortion. And it was, I think pro-choice by like almost maybe 8 or 10 back then. But still, when you drilled into the numbers and you asked people, what about in the final 3 months of the pregnancy? What about after a baby has developed this? Whatever it may be. People who say they're pro-choice were appalled at the actual practice of abortion. So they just heard all of the cultural BS their whole life. And my generation is a great example of that. It's a fetus, it's a fetus, it's a fetus. It could be a grown freaking baby. It could be a 6-7-month-old baby, it's a fetus. That's all they ever wanted you to view the pregnancy to be. And I don't think people realize that. And science has really done the pro-choice designation dirty. Because, for all of the talk about how the media and the left in general, we love science, we love science, we love science. Well, not when it comes to abortion. Apparently not. And Americans, when they understand what happens in the abortion industry, they have a canary. They flip out. No way, we don't do that. Yes, we do. All right, so, and also when the feel pain, the 20-week bill, 54% oppose allowing abortions after that period. Only 24% supported it during the final 3 months of the pregnancy. Get this, late-term abortion, which is what was so brilliant about Donald Trump not listening to the mainstream media and even the cowards in the Republican Party when he turned to Hillary Clinton in the debate and he said, Hillary, you support ripping a baby out in the final month at any time. You support late-term abortion. And in the final 3 months, you'll rip the baby from the womb. It was graphic how he did it, how he said it, but that is absolutely how you need to talk to the American people. That's how you debate. Make it real. And more than 2/3 of Americans oppose late-term abortion. About men and females, females oppose late-term abortion more than men. They support it less than men. 15 versus 19 in support. Only 15% for females, 19% for men. Opposition, over 68% oppose late-term abortion, females. 66%, 65.9% for men. Even 18 to 29, 55% of voters 18 to 29 oppose late-term abortion, only 24% support it. 30 to 44, 64 to 21. 45 to 64, 70 to 15. 65 plus, 73 to 13. It is not close. You would struggle to find any age group, racial group, where you can find good news for the pro-choice designation on this issue. They do not, Americans do not support the abortion industry as it stands today, even if they call themselves pro-choice. All right. Whites, 72% oppose, 14% support. Black and African American, 55% oppose, 23 support. Hispanic Latinos, 53-24. Asians, 46-37. American Indian Alaska Native, 71-10. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, 56-30. And all other racial groups, 70-10. Do that again, real
Nope.
quick. I missed it. I missed it.
Your problem.
No, I
Your
didn't
loss.
miss it. It just was so damn quick that I didn't miss it. It was just so quick. I'm like,
Darn it.
it's not good. It's just not good enough.
So
It's like taking a bite of a delicious sandwich and then someone being like, spit it out! Spit it out! And you're like, no! We got cold cuts. We got cold cuts. For cold cuts. Cold cuts, and you know what else I like, guys? You can get them at Publix. They're like these popcorn chips. They're like these.
We have them too.
That's what I'm talking about. And they make them now in Buffalo, right? Isn't that the new one?
Yes.
Oh
I wanna try
my
that.
God! Sour cream and onion,
It's
white
the best.
cheddar, and buffalo.
Sour cream and onion is the
Holy
best.
moly! Sour cream and onion is the best. I don't know what I was saying. They're popcorn chips. They're at Publix. You guys.
It's a shaped chip that
It's a
that's made out of
triangle
buffalo.
shaped chip made out of popcorn. It's the most fluffy and delicious thing you'll
It's
ever taste,
amazing.
and it's good. It's not good for you,
it's
but they're
better
baked
than-
and they're not like chips. So, because I don't like that crap in my house. I don't let my children snack on crap. I'll let them eat like Doritos once in a while or something. But I don't like that garbage. I'm not a health nut, but I don't like garbage. I don't like soda. I don't like soda in my house. My mother-in-law drives me crazy with that crap. Bringing Coca-Cola to my house.
Hey,
First
she
of all,
individualizes it.
we're Pepsi people now. Okay? We are literally supporting the community where the birth of Pepsi was happened.
All right, you digress. Jury
All right.
Spider would like
Go ahead.
to
Well,
know,
you disappeared on me for a
I
while.
know. but not like you can't answer a question for 10 hours. So, just say.
I resent that. Hey, Ben. Okay, I'm done.
Rich, would Rich prefer a Republican other than Trump get the nomination in 2024? And if so, who? Asking from perspective of how good a candidate and how good a leader if elected.
Are you asking my personal opinion
Yes.
or
Well, I
whether
guess.
what I think who has the best shot?
Trump has the best shot, but
As of right now, yes.
Yeah. But like, if you had a dream ticket, what would it be?
Trump and DeSantis.
That is a beautiful ticket.
And I'll say this for people who are like, well, we got to move on for Donald Trump. It really does depend. I mean, if Trump is going to be the same Trump, he's got to grow.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to be the same Trump, there is another Donald Trump off the camera. I got to tell you guys. And he's an incredibly charming man. I don't understand why he acts the way he acts. He pisses me off when it comes to that. However, you know, as old as I am, even Ronald Reagan,
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen a president stick to his guns and keep his promises.
Like
You may
Trump.
not like Donald Trump, and you may not like his positions, but there is no intellectual position. There is no intellectual argument that he is the most trustworthy politician. And I mean trustworthy in the sense that if Donald Trump tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. Scott Walker is another close second.
Mhm.
I mean, that guy was the personification of courage.
Oh yeah.
But the presidency is a whole other animal. For instance, moving the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I cannot tell you the pressure that comes along with that for a president. And nobody would have held up against that pressure. Mitt Romney would have caved.
Yep.
George W. Bush did cave. Barack Obama did cave. I mean, every president for decades had promised to do it, and in the end, they wouldn't do it. Why? everyone from care to the foreign policy right, or the foreign policy hawk right, will call you and tell you about why it's a bad decision. The foreign policy right will tell you that Arabs in Palestine will go nuts, and it will lead to a deterioration of stability in the region. That is what bucked Bush on it. It's not true.
He said that his age is what bothers him most.
Yeah, age bothers me too.
But
and
he's a vital. He'll be vital.
He's the
not,
only damn guy I know who left the White House looking
looks
better.
younger.
Have you guys seen him lately? He's thin. He looks thinner, and he looks good.
Healthier.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does. I want to know his.
And it's just incredible. Really, just incredible.
Back. I want to say I can't even say it's BMC.
I just want to tell people really quick that I did just put the abortion designation onto the columns, so you could cross support for each of those areas of abortion by whether or not someone tells you they're pro-life or pro-choice. And you will see exactly what I'm talking about when I say that this is a complicated issue. People who will tell you are pro-choice are still not for this stuff, okay? When a baby can feel pain, for instance, it's basically split between pro-choice. Well, then you're not pro-choice. You understand what I'm saying? During the first 3 months of during the final 3 months of a pregnancy, even 55% of people who call themselves pro-choice oppose late-term abortion. So I wanted to show you guys that, just so you can see. By the way, if you're pro-life, 86%. So.
All right. So let's say DeSantis does win the VP ticket, right? Who would be in line behind him to carry on Florida?
Oof. That's a good question.
That's what I said.
Florida has, and it's not because they don't have anybody. Florida's got some pretty solid bench people down there. They're legislators now. I think Matt Gaetz would be a little bit. His father would have been a different story, but I think he's just too polarized and polarizing, and he's got a lot of baggage. Maybe that won't last forever, though. Geez, man, Rick Perry would be a strong candidate.
Yeah.
Because he's so damn popular in Alachua County. He's a Republican who kept winning that district over and over. Why? Because he owned like a roofing business for 30 years. Big one. I know it sounds dumb, but his billboard name was everywhere.
He did the groundwork, too. He
did the groundwork.
Knocking on doors left and right.
At the Gator game all the time. Remember when that psycho liberal tried to attack him and his wife at the Gator game?
That didn't work
out. Yeah, they physically attacked this guy at the Gator game. Holding hands with his wife. That backfired. Because he was look, the district has gotten bluer and bluer and bluer and bluer, and he's been able to hold on. It was always close, but he's been able to hold on. They pulled that stunt, and he won by like 5 points. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of, I like that guy, that I'm forgetting his name right now, and I don't want to butcher his name. He's a disabled veteran, and he's a congressman from Florida. He's very well liked. Somebody said his name again. Yeah, I don't know. I did give him the link. Yeah, I did. I didn't see, just let him know that if I sometimes the alert comes up and then disappears. But that's alright. Just keep going with questions. Let me look. Maybe he's not doing. Maybe something happened here. Nope, haven't heard about. All right, that's alright. Keep going.
Oh no, I got questions.
I don't know how though to fix so I bring on Matt and then that goes. Watch, I'm gonna mute right now. Goodbye.
He said he's
goodbye.
In there.
Built-in mic, G-track. You guys can hear me, right? Yeah, because it's still live. I didn't swap it. He is not there. Negative. Negative. Negativo. I don't see him. Clearly. Alright, how about this? I'll disconnect and reconnect. Let's see. Not from you guys, don't worry. Son of a gun.
I told you.
Why does that keep doing that? My God.
Sitting there. I was like,
why does that keep doing that? What the hell? You got your volume on, by the way?
Yes, I did, just to make
Come
sure
on,
you
killer.
Hey, shush.
Killer,
I gotta do things right. I curse.
Killer. No, you said
curse.
shush. You did not curse. You said
Oh.
shush.
Oh, I did not curse. Somebody said such bad. Oh, it was a joke.
No. Yeah, you. Very rarely that Laura curses.
I have to really,
Very
really hurt
rarely.
myself or run into AOC.
Oh my God! When we didn't go to a single shop when Matt was here, did we?
No.
That's good. Who was Don's name?
Was it?
Yeah. All right. Replace. Bring it in. All right. We got one more. You got one more you want to bring in real quick?
No.
While I do what I'm doing?
Oh.
I got time. I'm doing my thing.
So, just a little heads up. Lori JT said, Rich, I'm not a doctor, but I was just tweeting with one about the subject. I hold the title of Dr. Mom. Keeping the...
Dr. Mom? Yeah.
Yes. Keeping the snoozle clean. Dental offices have not had a single
Snoozle?
outbreak of COVID. Spray and swish protocol. Xlear and mouthwash with... I can't even say that. It's CETYLPYRIDINIUM.
Holy crap, you're losing me.
Fluoride. Try it a couple times a day, and it'll keep you healthy.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at that comment, though. Hey, my good friend Don, can you hear me, my friend? Let's bring on Don! Everybody! Everybody's favorite Friday, Freewheeling Friday. Don Smith from The Don Smith Show, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, buddy,
everybody.
how you doing? Man, I'm
doing good.
sorry about that. It doesn't like, I don't know.
It's not notifying
It
him
does not
when
notify
you join.
when
And then I
people are
asked
joining.
him, like, quietly, I'm like, where's
Yeah, she's
Don?
just turned to me, she's like, and I pulled it up and showed her, Rendezvous. I pulled it up and I showed her
Yep.
Rendezvous, and I'm like, he's not here. And then that's when she got you, and she was like,
I'm like, I'm here.
geez, man. Damn. Well, you got a couple of minutes? Maybe we'll go over a little bit?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Let me just, first of all, I want to read you some things. All right, before we go into Q&A, I just want to take on two things.
Read
One
me a
is,
story.
yeah. So, eventually, CD Media rolls around and says, I want to do this poll. And Todd gobbled up the Georgia Record. So he wanted to do a poll in Georgia. I want to read you a couple of things here. All right. Oh, that's right. I got to go back. I went to the old survey because people wanted something. I had a question about abortion. But I can actually just refresh my memory here. Do you, and we have this thing, it's why I'm kind of doubling up on, that's why I said I want your opinion on two things, because we're going to overlap here.
Mhm.
Do you support or oppose a full forensic audit of the election in the state of Georgia? And really it was like, do you support or oppose it because you think we need it, right?
Mhm.
And I want to give you, the overall is going to be about 60%. It's about 58.9%, so 59, but let's round here, buddy. It's 60%. Only about 28% oppose it. When you look by party, Don, nearly a freaking majority. Democrats are about split. 45, basically. Independents are with Republicans, and so are the something else category. 61% of Republicans, but overall, man, it's about 61% of Republicans strongly support it. Overall, we're looking at 6 in 10 voters in the state of Georgia who think that the state needs a full forensic audit. With everything the media has done, Don, these people still think the state of Georgia was not legitimate. And they're going to try to just do what they're doing in Arizona here, which is like ridiculous kind of twisting of the coverage and what they're saying. The bottom line is this, you probably, I don't know if you heard our conversation with Matt before. I would have went, and me and you and I have spoken about this many times. This did not really get at the core of the issue. But my point is, you think people are ever going to give up on this? I mean, because the media tells them to?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get why people still want these audits. The bottom line is these guys are really good at cheating. I mean, we see this, but even
That's
but
a great
also
way to put it, man.
to your point that you talked about earlier was they're not going after the right things even when
No.
they do it. So the end result, even if they come back and they say all these things and they show all this stuff, it's not the right stuff. It's not what they should be going after. I'm more concerned about the midterms at this point. So, I mean, it is what it is, what happened. And I think it sucks. And I think they're really good at cheating. And I think we're unable to prove it. And I think we're so far beyond now with all the things that have been destroyed. We know stuff's been destroyed. If they're going to get rid of, they're very good
And
at
or
this.
fabricated. And or
Correct.
fabricated, because that's what we found in Michigan. I don't care how much.
Yep.
If anybody wants to penalize me, I will appeal it with data. I will appeal it with my findings, and the findings of an independent person who went through it.
Yeah.
And actually, they found the deleting and fabrication. I
Correct.
did not. I just was doing, record by record. This person says he did not, blah blah blah.
Yep.
Don, I think you really said it. Wisconsin, I did have a call with somebody. That's the only one that seemed to really have a grasp on how you would even find it. And everybody else was just doing this BS. I don't even know what to call it. It's a total waste. They got baited, bro. And at this point, you're how long away from the midterms? You better start making your argument.
Yep. Well, and if you're going to do an audit, that's great. But come in and bring us something, show people something. Otherwise, it's the same old thing. It's all those were crazy Republicans, and that's why you don't want to vote for these guys. You want these crazy people in office, and and so they bait us every time. We fall for it every time. We don't message it properly. This whole Arizona thing was just the way it was handled. And like you, I haven't read the report, so I don't know. But just the way it was handled, like they're out of state and they're like, and they make themselves kind of look crazy when they do some of these things, but come back with some results. Give us something. Go after the right things and say, here, look, we found all these unverified votes. We found all this stuff. Oh, and the data's gone now. And tell us something. Tell us something that actually makes sense and that doesn't make us just look like a bunch of crazies running around. Because that's what they don't have much to go on the left. In this midterm election, this is not looking good for them. The only play they have right now is, number one, shut down the government, blame the Republicans. I mean, how many times are we going to watch this movie? How many times are we going to fall for this thing? But they've got that, and then it's going to be they're still crazy and they're still fighting over the 2020 election. So I'd love to see an audit. I'd love to see actual data. I'd love to see you and I were on the same page when this whole thing first went down. It's like, get in there now. Why weren't they already there? They knew this was going to happen. Why weren't they already there?
Otherwise, Don, at a certain point, just shut the hell up. Because you were behind the ball and you got rolled.
Yep.
And you got rolled because you call people like me amateurs. And it's like, it's like arrogance is a real killer, bro. It really is.
Yep.
And, you and I, 2 months, Don. 2 months. And then it's like, all of a sudden you want to undo it or something? I don't know, my friend. I just don't see, and they have a good position here. In Georgia, it was very, very close. Biden won the national popular vote. I'm doing official totals here, folks. Don't bust my chops. Biden won the official total vote, popular vote by 4 points. Georgia was basically even, okay, as a percentage. All right, and I'm looking at a guy who is underwater. It's going to be ugly. His disapproval is probably going to be in the mid-50s. And his, approval is going to be like 40, maybe 1, something like that. So, I mean, in Georgia, that matters considering how close Georgia can be. Of those who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, 12.5% say they disapprove of him. All right. Of those who voted for Donald Trump, only 7% approve of him. You guys understand where I'm saying this? Those who voted for Joe Jorgensen, 57% strongly disapprove of him. Another 12% disapprove. Among those other party candidates, 47.7% disapprove, only 25% approve. I mean, Don, my point is, like, if you went and read the media coverage, I saw this in our national polling too when we did the head-to-head with him and Trump again, like a hypothetical. These third-party voters who supposedly didn't like Clinton, so they either voted for Trump or voted for Gary Johnson or voted for Joe Stein, they were coming back to Joe Biden in this election, and that is the media narrative of who put Joe Biden over the edge in these battleground states. They freaking hate this guy right now. I mean, this is bad. Because this is why I think it's important we do what we do, which is separate truly unaffiliated voters, nuns, from those third-party voters. Libertarian, Constitutional Party, the Tax Reform Party, the Green Party. These are those voters, 5 to 7% of the electorate, who supposedly voted for Joe Biden 2, 3 to 1 in some states and put him over. They hate this guy right now. His approval with them is in the 20s, my friend, in the 20s. I mean, this is, yeah. And by the way, I think now Fox can take their poll and stick it up their butt. They're a horrible poll, and everybody knows it. And made me feel a little bit better in Iowa, putting out that Iowa poll this week, because, look, we don't always agree, but when she puts out, 29% approval with independents, and a decline among his handling of the COVID pandemic, it makes me feel a little bit better, because some of these people are just crazy and out in left field and continuing this ridiculous narrative. Fox and CNN, just pretending Joe Biden isn't in a freaking free fall. I mean, it's so frustrating as a pollster, because I'm looking at what I'm looking at. I mean, there's just no way, Don, to manipulate the numbers that badly. It's like, I'll never forget Fox's Biden +3 or 5 in Ohio. Do you remember that? It was just in Ohio. I'm like, holy crap, how is that possible? This is not close. This state's going to vote for Trump by roughly the same margin it voted for him in 2016. This hasn't moved at all. I don't know, man. It's so frustrating.
The whole thing is frustrating, and it's been frustrating since election day, and we're all frustrated. And I know people want, and I do too. I want, do the audits and overturn this stuff and give us the proof and do all these things. But I have no confidence that they can do that. So, do I think Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan? Do I think there was funny business at a minimum there? Yes. Do I think there was outright fraud? Yes. But nobody can prove it, and
Don,
I don't have.
Would anybody have the? Let me ask you this straight to the point. Would anybody have the balls to say it, even if they found it?
That's a good question.
If there was a legitimate, let's say, a Senate or legislature ordered an audit, ordered a full accounting, like it's not like we saw in Arizona, but through the process they did in Arizona, and it was a full accounting. Canvas, audit, whatever, right? Even if they found it, would they have the balls to say it? Like, this current president is not legitimate.
Yep.
That's what they would be saying. And
Right.
we have no place in the Constitution to even address that, if that's true. So, would anybody really have the courage? I mean, we live in an era of cowardice. Would anybody legitimately have the courage? I think not, my friend. I don't think they do.
Right. And you certainly wouldn't have a coalescing of the party behind whoever. If there was one person out there that would do it, you would have everybody would throw him under the bus. You'd have Liz Cheney all over TV. You'd have all these nutbags, the Kinzingers and all these people. So that's the biggest problem we have in our party. So my thing is
Lindsey Graham. I mean, he was a fraud last week with that book telling Bob Woodward he looked into it. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact he told somebody right after his conversation with Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, I need you on this. I need everyone to rally me on this. We could stop it if we move quick enough. And he turned and said, after he got done with Trump, he went to a donor who wanted to know what happened. And Don, verbatim, we all know they cheated. There's nothing we can do about it now. Yeah. And then he goes and tells Bob Woodward he thoroughly investigated this or something and wasn't convinced. No, he wasn't, because I was one of a few people I know were given the names, were given the senators, that go talk to these people and then make up your mind. I never got a damn call from Lindsey Graham. Neither did Matt or anybody else. We asked, but when that story broke, we've been making calls and talking to people that have a role back then. Yep. And Lindsey Graham didn't call any of us. None of us.
But that's the most frustrating part of all of this. It's not even having faith that somebody even is competent enough to do a full audit and really find the things that you need to look for, the verifications, all these different things that you've been talking about for a long time. We don't even have enough confidence that they know how to do that properly. And then even if they find it, like you said, what are they going to say? What's their official report going to read like?
Right.
And even if it does, then you're going to have the party throwing those people under the bus because they're more concerned about votes. And we need to get serious about the midterms. We need to make sure that we get in there so they don't pass some federal voter one and cement
That's
what
right.
just happened, cement it into our system, because we'll lose election after election after election if that happens. So
That's right.
this is so important right now, and this is so important to not lose the position that we have right now going into these midterms. And that's the only way you do it. They're going to shut the government down. They're going to blame us. They're going to do that whole thing again. That's guaranteed. And they're going to try to make us look crazy with the voter fraud. Do you believe every single Republican
Everyone's
candidate?
going to get asked that.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. Was this election stolen? Do you believe this election was stolen? And since we don't have any proof, if you say, yes, I do believe it is, then they're going to...
You're crazy.
Yeah. We know how this is going to work. We've seen it before. It's not new.
I mean, it's just incredible how many people in the state of Georgia, how much trust do you have in the integrity of the election result? Now, granted, it is a minority, but I mean, only 30% say a great deal.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, just that, more than that combined, said none at all or not very much. I mean, it's just like amazing, but at the same time, I think what it would benefit the Republicans more is to, like you said, get in those legislatures. You have the people behind you and go to town. And they didn't. In Georgia is a great example. You and I have talked about this many times. They, what do they say, Don? Jim Crow 2.0. They go out and get the Jim Crow 2.0. Republicans put their little tiny you-know-whats between their legs and run like a bunch of babies. And they leave not only their own voters, but all voters hanging. Because I just can't believe the numbers that we have in this place. In State Farm Arena, they didn't let anybody meaningfully participate in the process of oversight and counting of votes, right? In the state of Georgia, voters overwhelmingly don't even believe that officials should be allowed to count votes like that.
Mhm.
I mean, 43%, Don, say that they strongly support a measure that basically requires it. And another 28.4% supports it. Only 15% opposes a measure. I mean, that requires, parties be involved.
Yep. One of the oldest
It's
sayings,
stunning to me, my friend.
one of the oldest
Stunning.
sayings in politics is all politics is local. And it is so true.
Yeah.
People, if anybody out there watching right now wants to do something, be in your polling place. The next time that this happens, be a part of that team.
That's right.
Get in there, be there. Then they can't block you and keep you away from viewing or supervising the vote counts. Or get in those polling places. Run for your local school boards. Look what's going on with our school systems. Get in those. Get on that board. Be a part of that board. And then they can't rickroll you on all this stuff and just run you right over. Because without that, we saw this time. This is one thing we saw this time. Was it doesn't even matter. The laws were, you and I talked about it all throughout the pandemic.
Yeah,
they were setting us up. It was the perfect storm. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the laws are. It matters who's inside there enforcing those laws.
True. Don, we just in North Carolina saw another, yet again, second time now, a liberal judge strike down a voter ID law, which was passed and signed by the governor, even though the state expanded the kind of IDs that are good enough, like not just licensed kinds of IDs, and then made sure they'd be free to everybody to obtain, and easy and free. They still, and I quote, they called it a racist law, even though majorities of blacks in the state support it, and it's around 8 in 10 voters overall support it. And Republicans should just it is going to be appealed, but this is what happened before in North Carolina. And you have to, essentially, at some point, Don, this thing has got to be taken to, federal court or something. I don't know. You got to end the conversation. Otherwise, if I was Republicans, I would just keep putting it on a referendum. I would just keep doing it because it's going to pass so overwhelmingly. But they cave and they don't go like they're struggling to even keep a voter ID law, man. I mean, when we ask about more of the complex provisions that you and I have discussed many times, Florida was brilliant with this after 2000. They were brilliant with this. You don't need to know, the margin of the votes. But 48 hours later, you cannot say you just found another 25,000 ballots. Like, that's not allowed in the state of Florida. You have a deadline for reporting the total number of votes in your precinct and county. And after that, tough noogies, they don't count, And everyone can have confidence 72 hours later, the 10,000 that just came in. I'm not talking about military ballots, guys. That's not what I'm talking about here. We all know what I'm talking about. This one was found in a Dropbox somewhere. This was there. Come on. First of all, by the way, voters in the state of Georgia wanted a ban on Dropboxes. They didn't even want them anymore, and these idiots expanded their use. It's just that if you're this dumb, then at some point maybe you do really just deserve what you get. Because if you're that cowardly and stupid, then what else can you expect? Strongly support those deadline provisions, Don. 43.2% strongly support. Another 26.5% support. You know how many strongly oppose? 7.5%. It's like, who the hell is the media talking to? Who are they representing? Themselves.
That's it.
The white, clandestine, liberal, racist.
Yep. Amen.
Yep. And no doubt the media deserves a lot of the scrutiny, and it's kind of like what my whole show is built on and has been forever, is scrutinizing the media. But let's be honest about this. The media didn't collectively wake up one day and say, let's just start lying to people.
That's right, man.
They did it because that's the demand of their consumers. Their consumers want to be lied to. They need to be lied to because they need somebody to tell them that Joe Biden really didn't create this huge debacle in Afghanistan. They need somebody to tell them that it really wasn't Joe Biden that created this huge debacle at our southern border. They want to be lied to. And if you don't lie to them enough, if you don't lie to them hard enough, or you're not nasty enough against still talking about Trump, then they're turning you off. So this is consumer demand. This is supply and demand in its purest form. So they didn't just wake up one day and say, you know what? I think we're just going to start lying to people. Their consumers demanded that they lie.
Yeah, and we have Project Veritas videos from CNN with Zucker himself. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. What you just said is absolutely true. Yeah. They knew Russia collusion was false, but they knew that their viewers wanted Trump hate. Yep. Even if they weren't true. Even if it convinced a nutbag that Republicans had to be gunned down while practicing for a charity baseball game. Because they were enabling the traitor.
Right.
I mean, this is, man, I don't even know what the answer is, Don,
these people were praising yesterday. They were praising Brian Williams. Think about this for a minute. Brian Williams. You know why? Because he still hates Trump and he still talks about Trump 24/7. His whole world revolves around. TDS is a very real thing. For the rest of these people's lives, it will revolve around Trump. 20 years from now, Trump. But they were praising this guy who is the most. I mean, think about his credibility factor. This guy who saw a body floating by in his hotel. The water was 6 inches deep. Yeah, there was no body. He had told a story where he heard about a guy who committed suicide in the Superdome because George Bush, he didn't respond quick enough. So then that story, as he's talking to, think about this for a minute. He's sitting down with an interview with Dan Rather, the second most lack of credibility guy in the news media. He's the
father of fake news,
Dan Rather. He started it. Yeah, it started with him. Yeah. And he tells the story that we all saw it. We all saw the guy commit. The guy committed suicide now right in front of him. The day earlier, it was he heard the story and we all heard the story. Now he saw it and we all saw it. So people want to be lied to. They love Chuck Todd. Yeah. I'm no Chuck Todd fan. But he trends every other day. He trends. Why? Because he wasn't hard enough on somebody, or he had an actual Republican on the show. These people want to be lied to.
Dude, he was totally, and I'll grab that question in a second, Laura. I just want to bring this up with Chuck Todd. You know, and I know, that Chuck Todd has been a shill for the DNC for a very long time.
Mhm.
I've read his emails where he's like,
Mhm.
get me tickets to the after party and you can have free reign of my show on Sunday. I mean, this is the kind of a shill he is, and that's not
Yep.
good enough for them.
Not good enough.
Because the moment he says what he said last week, which was, look, the bottom line is Joe Biden was supposed to be the adult and everything has gone to hell under. And look,
Yep.
it's objective. He destroyed Afghanistan, not Donald Trump.
Mhm.
COVID is not out of control because of Donald Trump. It's out of,
Mhm.
the situation. I don't think COVID myself is out of control.
Right.
But the situation is out of control public policy wise because of Joe Biden. The booster
Mhm.
failure is Joe Biden's failure. I mean, he was handed on a silver platter the fastest developed vaccine in the history of the damn country, which I don't support, but it's irrelevant. He was handed it, and he screwed that up too. So he's an F up, and always has been, my friend.
Well,
Always
and
has been.
let's not forget.
But they
Joe
went after
Biden.
him for that, for just
Joe
mentioning
Biden.
the truth.
Joe Biden is the one who put the doubt in the American people about the vaccine, his own
That's right.
voters. He's the one who did that. Why? To try to win an election. And
Kamala
now all of a
Harris,
sudden,
Joy
yep,
Reid,
yep, indeed.
to try to win an election. And now all of a sudden, like you said, he's
Mhm.
he's worried why people don't have trust in the vaccine. And Joy Reid had the nerve last week, that racist piece of garbage. She is a racist piece
I
of
can't
trash.
stand her.
Right, Laura? I
Mhm.
told you, she's just a racist piece
Evil.
of trash.
She's evil.
Evil. She's a homophobe, a liar, a
Yep.
racist.
Mhm.
She is like the worst kind of person. And she had the nerve, the issue with missing girl is one thing.
Petito,
But she
yeah.
had the nerve to actually try to justify that
You-
it was
you-
all right to be vaccine hesitant under Donald Trump, but not
Yep.
under Joe Biden. I mean, Don,
Yep.
the agencies don't change because of the press. I mean, it's so
Nothing changed. It's the same vaccine. These are the same vaccines. Nothing changed. There's no new developed
Pfizer
vaccine under
don't
Joe
care who the
Biden.
president is, bro. They don't
Nope.
give a damn.
Yeah. Neither does COVID.
That's right. And that's why what's really happening, which Chuck Todd finally started to be honest about and he got slammed for. He made an impossible promise. It was a ridiculous promise. It was a ludicrous proposition. Not only because it's Joe Biden promising it, the biggest screw up in the history of the Senate. I mean, he's a screw. The guy's a loser.
Joe
mean-
Biden on the campaign trail, and nobody talks about this. He promised everybody that if he were to become the president, he would cure cancer.
That's right.
Remember
oh
this?
my God, that's right. Remember he was going to cure cancer, Laura?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
How's that going? How's he
How's
doing
that
with that?
going?
I hope he does. Hey, I would have voted for him if he really could do that, but he just lies. It's what they do. They just lie when they don't have to. I used to drive an 18-wheeler. Why would you even say something like that?
Spoke to
It
a
makes no
doctor
sense.
last-
It gains you nothing.
Spoke to a doctor last weekend. He thinks there's actually going to be a really, really bad surge in. It's probably content for another show. But not only that, there was like this lack of the ability to catch cancers early, but there are certain kinds of cancers that sadly they think they're
I have no doubt.
Yeah, and he thinks it's going to be a complete new. That's why I told Trump and his supporters and the team better stop taking credit for this thing, because eventually the truth is going to come out. The shit is going to hit the fan, my friend.
Yep.
And do you want to have that bullseye put on your back? Because they'll pivot in a second and say, look, here's how many times Donald Trump took credit for it. He better just, he better be more careful on this, and he's not.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Laura, get your story, because I do have to get back to
You mean
Poland.
question?
Yeah.
All right. So the
Is this one for Don, you said?
both of you?
Okay.
It's Drury wants to know. Sorry. How did I get it? Aha. Did it. Okay. Wants to know which state has done the best with election integrity reform post 2020 election
Post 2020.
and the worst. Who do you think were the
Texas
best and the
so far, and the worst is Kansas, I think. I mean, what do you think, Don? I think some of the provisions, but Texas already did have very strong language, so it's easy to build on. I don't know why some of these like deep red states are like Utah and Kansas. Utah's not really making it worse, but they've been, I'm involved with something like that right now. I couldn't believe how absolutely it insecure it is, or insecure.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think, Don?
I would say, of course, Texas. I'm going to agree with you on Texas. I think what Georgia proposed is really good, and so I think they at least did something. They took some kind of action. I would say the worst is every state who's trying to keep what just happened in this last election
Yeah,
as
that's a
their
good
law.
point.
So it's a tie between like every blue state in this country.
Yeah. Speaking of blue states, I wanted to bring this up. Connecticut, New Jersey, even Michigan, which I would not call a blue state, but these blue state governors are in deep trouble, man.
Deep doo-doo.
I mean, it's not not everywhere is California. I mean, Murphy is ahead by 3 points in 2 polls, one conducted by the campaign for the Republican, but the other one conducted by a very well-known public pollster in New Jersey, and it is close. And by the way, both of these pollsters had big leads from Murphy like 6 months ago, and those leads are gone. In Connecticut, I saw a generic poll. Who are you gonna vote for? The Republican, the Democrat, and the Republican actually had a slight lead, which is not uncommon. Connecticut can be very close, has a long history of that. But New Jersey, and Joe Biden's approval in New Jersey was 47%. And man, I'll tell you what, they're gonna need these. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna need these issues. And let me just say this before you got the other last question teed up. Let me just say this: the generic ballot in Georgia, Walker and generic Republicans on the generic ballot are leading, but Walker has a bigger lead than the generic Republican candidate in the generic ballot statewide in Georgia. And it's kind of funny, Don. Laura and I were looking at it. It's because he does better among liberals. It's because he does better among Democrats. It's because he does better among black voters. It's all these crossover votes that he's getting that Republican candidates are not getting. But the reason why they have a lead is because more Republicans are more decided they are going to vote Republican than Democrats are decided. The crossover's worse for Democrats, is my point.
Yep.
And Walker, he's got a pretty solid lead right now, man.
Yeah,
It's only 4 points, but it's like a solid 4 points,
we should have voter enthusiasm on our side. So that's why I say we've got to stay the course. We've got to understand how important these midterm elections are, because there could be huge consequences if we do not take back at least one of the branches. I mean, we should take back the Senate and the House, but we need to at least get one of them, or this is going to really, really get ugly in the last 2 years of this debacle administration.
Yeah, it looks like right now, Georgia is looking good for Republicans there because Walker is so far ahead of all the other candidates anyway. Shockingly, Vernon Jones was doing very poorly against Brian Kemp. And I don't know why, but he is. And I'm not sure. Not that I'm not sure, I'm being nice. Brian Kemp cannot win re-election. His approval is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. The problem is 30% of Democrats are not going to vote for him, Don. And he's got like a quarter of the Republican Party in Georgia can't freaking stand him. And they won't vote for him. And, a big chunk of them won't vote, But those Democrats who say they approve of him only do so because they remember he stuck his thumb in Donald Trump's eye. But when they get their own candidate, they're not going to vote for Brian Kemp. I mean, so it's like a fake approval that's baiting Republican voters in Georgia into thinking that Kemp is the stronger candidate when he is not.
Yep.
And I don't know what's going on with Vernon Jones. I heard some stuff. I'm not willing to believe anything until I know it myself, but I don't know, man. This just does not look like this may be when Republicans lose. The gubernatorial.
I'm afraid of that too.
Yeah.
Instantly with Kemp, I mean, you had the whole thing with not fighting back. And so, I mean, here we are talking about audits like several months later. Where was he at the beginning of this whole thing? He should have, and he didn't do anything. And so yeah, he's not going to have any enthusiasm behind him from the Republican Party for sure. And from real conservatives, he can forget it. So yeah, I don't know.
Meanwhile, you have Vernon Jones, who did call for a full forensic audit and everything
Mhm.
from the very beginning, and 6 in 10 voters overall want that. He's just not doesn't seem to be penetrating. The only way he leads Kemp is if he gets Donald Trump's endorsement. That's it.
He's
You
a
know.
really nice guy too. He's really personable, and yeah, I mean, the interview we did with him was just great. He was just yeah. So great guy, but and he understood all this stuff, and he was attacking. He was saying a lot of the things that we talk about on here. So he had specifics. He had all this stuff, and yeah, it just didn't fight hard enough. So I'm not blaming him for that, but I
Yeah.
found him to be a really nice guy, really personable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. It just doesn't seem to be. Maybe he hasn't gotten the message out enough. Just doesn't seem to be resonating there.
Yep.
You know, you know, if Trump if he gives him his endorsement, then he does pull ahead of Kemp by about
Mhm.
4 points. But he needs that endorsement. And there's a big chunk of undecided still. I mean, Don, we're talking about more than a third of Republicans are like, I don't know yet. Come on, man.
Mhm.
Give me a break, man. You know, we spoke to 429 people out of the full poll who are going to vote in the Republican primary between Republicans and independents. It is open. And about 4. It's a pretty nice subsample, you know, for a primary vote. But it's very early. Although, it's pretty clear, Walker is already taking more than 50% of the primary vote. It's a wrap in the Senate.
Mhm.
It's over.
I like him.
Yeah, he's strong, stronger than I thought he'd be this early. Go ahead,
I have an interesting question.
hit it because
Sam
it is getting
Josh.
120. I can't
Yeah.
keep Don forever.
I know. We love Don. What can I say?
Plus, I want that sandwich.
Make
Does
me
the
a sandwich.
average rate of the approval of key issues correlate with the approval/disapproval rate of a president?
That's a really good question. I mean, no, the answer to that is no now. It used to be that they tracked pretty close, Don, but not anymore, man. You would look at Obama, people would say, oh, yeah, I approve of him, I like him. Okay, which issue? Right, Don? Not a single damn one. From the economy to foreign policy, they just liked Obama. You know, he was like too cool for them or something. No drama, Obama.
Well,
Trump,
I think
total
things
reverse.
I think as a society, things used to be more of a policy thing, right?
Yeah,
In
me too.
politics. So it was all just policies. Now it's about whether I like the person or not. So I mean, just look at the opposite of, so you just brought up Obama. The opposite of that is Trump.
Yep.
So, I like what he's doing. I like his policies. But I don't like his tweets. So I think that's infiltrated. I think social media maybe plays a role in that, but I think it's almost more now about personalities.
I think
than
we're
it is
just more
policies.
shallow now too. I hate
Yeah,
to say it,
yeah,
but I really
yeah.
do. I
That's
mean,
the
Don,
bottom
my
line.
very first presidential election, it was a rational policy argument and discussion. I mean, we did
Yep.
not talk the way we talk right now. I mean, nobody
Yep.
did.
Yep.
I think it's sad, but I think it's true, man. And I think
It
that's
is.
why Trump has a lead now, though, because he's not, you know, being bombarded. No one's talking about his tweet every day, and he's not being inundated. Although, like I said before, when somebody asked, you know, who would you rather run in 2024? I think Trump is the best shot right now, very clearly. But is he going to be the same Trump? Because you know, you interviewed him personally, you met him personally, multiple times. There's another Donald Trump
There is.
that people don't see. Why the hell did he not show the country that guy, Don?
Yep. It blew me away. It blew me away the first time I interviewed him, and then the first time I met him in person. It was just like, this is not the guy I see on TV. This is a completely different guy. He seemed more caring, he connected with everybody in that room. It was like, this guy's, I could see
Smart too.
then.
He's
I
just sounds smarter when he's
Well,
he's just you know.
let me say this. I wondered, how did he become so successful with the real estate deals, the big deals that he did, if he's that guy,
Like a
if he's
clown.
that guy you see on TV calling people names. And I mean, you picture him in a board meeting going, hey, shut up, little hands, dude.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
it's like, but then you meet
Everybody
him and
knows you have a tiny.
the
That's
first time I meet him, I go, I get it now. Because he walked into that room and he connected with everybody individually, personally, boom, 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 boom. And it was like, yep, I can see it now.
And I get the art of the deal, though, Dom, but I thought eventually that would stop. Come in, bowl in the China shop, wreck everything, and then offer your hand to calm the swell, you know, to calm the waves.
Yep.
But I thought eventually, you know, the handshake never came. You know, if you guys, anybody who's read the art of the deal, you know what I'm talking about. The
Yep, yep.
handshake never came, man.
Okay, so I also look at it this way. So when he came into that room, he wasn't under attack. He just came into the room and he was part of what was going on.
Good point.
Outside of that, he was constantly under attack. Bam, bam, bam. And he is a counterpuncher. All those things are true. And he's a fighter. So he didn't have to fight when he came into that room. He wasn't fighting with anybody. He was himself. He was just, I think that's who he really was. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and he hates that, the idea people don't like him because he is so damn personable. I mean, if people, I really can't explain it. I don't really know. I can't, but I can't stress it enough. He is much more friendly. He comes across as incredibly intellectual. I mean, it's just, not intellectual, smarter, just smarter, much more street smart, wittier. He doesn't have that flaky, flamboyant, crass. He's
very down to earth.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's a very likable guy. And
the thing we did was
him in the casino. You remember? She told you he was
very nice.
He was a gentleman.
That was just a normal person.
The thing we did was a veterans thing. So all these VA issues were going on at the time with the VA hospitals and all that.
Yeah.
So he's got his staff in there. I mean, they're all in there. Hope Hicks is in there. His whole team's in there. And when something came up that he liked, he pulled out a piece of paper and he writes it down. He didn't say, "Hey, write this down for me. Hey, make sure I do that." He wrote it down himself, and he was like, and then he handed the thing to one of his staff and he said, "You remind me of this tomorrow because everything he wrote down on those pieces of paper, he did it. He did it." So
right. You can hear me now, right? But you couldn't before, right? Let me see. Check. No, okay. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna figure this out eventually. Ever since that update, I don't know. Like I bring people on, and then it keeps switching microphones. Which it's fine. It's just that I gotta know it's like I gotta pay attention and know it does that. So I'm like, yeah. But yeah, why don't you tell people? I know it's getting a little bit late. It's 1:30. I'll see you tomorrow, of course. But why don't you tell everybody why they should go back and look at what did earlier in the week, but then also what you have coming up tomorrow.
Well, we started out the week on Monday at noon Eastern time. We do the Stand Up America U.S. show with MG Paul Vallely. We had Ted and Shemaine Nugent for a half an hour. We had live interview with Colonel Alan West. Amazing guy. He's like on the campaign trail. He's actually on his way to the border, and he pulls over into a parking lot to do the 30-minute interview from his vehicle. That's just the kind of guy he is. So it was like super cool. Some of the locals folks got some of their questions answered, so that was cool as well. Then last night, I just kind of played a clip of that and just went over some of the things I started out talking here about where people just want to be lied to, but did a kind of a short show. It's been a busy week. Tomorrow we have Tony Pham, okay, so this guy was an immigrant who came here from Vietnam, part of the war, like he was a kid and came over here and went on to become the acting director for ICE under President Trump. So really good stuff. This guy's got really good insight on what's going on at the border with the horses and the whole thing. That's this big faux controversy here this week. So looking forward to having him on. Of course, Peter Hussey, and of course you'll be there. So we'll go over some of the data you've got here. That's pretty cool stuff. And I think Georgia is a bellwether for sure coming into the midterms. Nice to see exactly what's going on there because I think it really gives us kind of a heads up because that's one of those toss-up states here. Based on the last election. But I just want to mention too, I finally got around to it and I did the vault of the Donald Trump interview. So that is up now in my locals community. I put a little taste of it in there, but I also put the entire interview up there where you can hear it. It's the first time there was interference in that you knew this guy was being spied on.
They were spying on him right in your interview. For folks, if you don't know it, go to donsmithshow.locals.com, donsmithshow.locals.com, and you will hear. Not only were they that's what it is. I mean, we were always being very conservative when we were talking about it, just to make sure it's confirmed. It was very clear that's what was going on, and it's much earlier than anybody wanted ever to admit. That's because they're the Hoover. It was the Hoover thing, man.
It took us well over
president spy on him, get dirt.
It took us well over a year to even know that was taking place. So we knew something was going on. We knew it was bizarre. Never heard anything like it. He knew it too, but we didn't know what it was because there was no reporting of, oh, hey, they're already spying on this guy. Or it took us a long time to even go, oh, that's what was going on. So you can hear it.
It's the Chinese, guys. he jokes that it's China spying on. And which is funny because, I mean, everyone can clearly hear, I mean, interference. I mean, it sounded like a wiretap. And Don, you know, it just goes to show you, why doesn't anything ever change in this damn country? You know, and it's like, because these people are criminal organizations who, what were they doing, Don, that early? They had nothing on the guy. Their point was to spy on him to get some kind of dirt, so when they need him in line, they get him in line. And that's what happens with them all. And that's why nothing ever changes.
They can talk about the
model.
They can talk about the dossier and all this stuff all they want, which we know exactly what that thing is. I mean, we knew it from the beginning. We knew that. They knew it too. But let's be real. This all started just because of the comment he made about Vladimir Putin and Hillary's emails.
That's it.
And she is such a vicious person that she took that so personally that she was going to make him pay for just making that comment about her.
Yes. Yeah,
that's what it was all about.
Nasty, nasty woman. Always had. I mean, look, he said that, but it's true.
It was funny.
Nasty woman. Yeah, it was funny, and it's absolutely freaking true. You know, and in the Sussman indictment, we could have gotten into that too, but you know, whatever, we'll save it for another time. But obviously, they knew that was bullcrap, and everybody knew it, and yet they lied to the country and used it to handicap or to even to interfere and grind to a halt a duly elected president. They robbed Donald Trump and his voters of a presidency with lies. And and until, you know, the left better wake up, because until that administrative state is dealt with, you're not getting what you want either. These people are the ones in power. They laugh at the prospect that you think you're in charge. You know, I mean, it's just a joke. Elections are a charade in this country at this point. And we need to do something about that if you want to be free. It's that simple. All right, well, with that in mind, my friend, tell everybody where to go and check you out, and then we'll get out of here.
So donsmithshow.locals.com, donsmithshow.com, you can find it there, the link there as well. But check us out. I'm on every Saturday at noon Eastern time. The Major General Paul Valdez show is every Monday at noon Eastern time. And then I'm on, again, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So check us out. Love to have you there.
Awesome. And as always, all the best for joining us, my friend. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll send you some graphics we can go over.
Thanks. Bye, Laura.
Bye, Don. Love you.
Love you too.
My love.
Will do. All right, you guys have a good one.
Our best. All right. And I'll see you soon.
And happy birthday to Brenda, too. Her birthday was earlier, but I'm just saying it on the show.
Hey, and let me just say this too. So Brenda now qualifies.
When I get older.
Brenda now qualifies for the Denny's discount. So we're pretty jacked. We're pretty stoked about that.
Nice.
Sorry, Brenda.
My birthday's
That's
tomorrow.
funny stuff, man. Yeah, Laura's tomorrow, but I will.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Well, you'll talk to her tomorrow. Yeah. You know. All right, my friend. I'll see you soon. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
That's Don Smith, ladies and gentlemen. As always, we love him. DonSmithShow.locals.com, and we'll see him tomorrow. Do not miss it tomorrow. Noon a.m. Eastern, noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll have some stuff to go over. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. It's late. I gotta get some lunch and we'll wrap up. Gotta make the poll pretty. You gotta make it pretty, and it's just time consuming. All right, so I'm gonna go do that. It's called work, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, and what else? What am I missing here? Just keep an eye on me. If I'm missing some appearance, I'll let you know. But of course, keep an eye out on my locals page for. I'll share it to you guys when it's done, packaged up, ready to go. Follow me on Getter at People's Pundit. You can follow Laura at Laura Barris, and it's in my profile. You can just click on it and go from there. And of course, still on Twitter at People's_Pundit. If you like today's video, hit the like, thumbs up button on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. Ding! That'll let you know when we're gonna go live.
It's all about algorithms.
But of course, the best way to follow us is on Locals. Become part of the revolution in data journalism.
Amen.
All right?
Preach it.
peoplespundit.locals.com. We'll see you guys soon. Love you.
Love you guys.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night. Just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker.